Welcome to Conversations with Educators, where we bring educators from across the country to talk about topics like college and career readiness, graduation tracking, teacher growth, assessment coordination, and more. Let's get started.
Thank you so much for taking time to join us today for Conversations with Educators, Mastering the Four-Year Plan. We are super excited to have Lori Stinson, the District Coordinator of Counseling Services from Greater Clark County Schools with us today. We also have Sarah Evans, who's a coordinator for CTE and CCMR from Pleasanton High School out of Texas. She is in a smaller district, so wears multiple hats like many of you do. So as soon as she joins us and is on the screen, that is her name, Sarah Evans. So we'll join her then. We know here at Education Advance how important the role of counselors is in supporting students' academic, career, and personal development. And we really look forward to hearing from our guests on how they work to improve student outcomes by planning ahead, addressing challenges, and using effective strategies and tools throughout the year, specifically with the four-year plan in mind. And super glad that we have Robbie here, who is been in many of these webinars and has had many of these conversations with a lot of people from Indiana. And so really looking forward to being able to kind of moderate the conversation that we have today. And there's Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Thanks so much. Great to see your face. I did introduce you earlier, Sarah, so everybody kind of knows that you're out of Texas and that you're a coordinator for CTE and CCMR. And as we think about the conversation today, whoops, that's good. That's getting away from me. Our agenda is going to be kind of having that conversation about creating a dynamic four-year plan. What does that look like when we think about facilitating meaningful conversations? How do we integrate the four-year plan with IGPs? For those of you using Pathways as a tool, those are also the PGP thing that we have implemented. What kind of technology are you leveraging? And then we'll open it up for Q&A. So I'm going to stop sharing screen and kind of hand it over to Robbie if you would like to add anything before we have the floor open to Lori and Sarah.
Nope, I'm good. Actually, I'm excited to hear from Lori and Sarah as well. Just for Sarah, when you want to just say hi and introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Sarah Evans. This is my 20th year in education in Texas. I am currently our campus CTE and CCMR coordinator. I have worked with CTE for about 10 years. I was a high school counselor previous to this position. So it kind of all integrates. And I was hired originally as a CTE counselor 10 years ago. Pathways fits really well into ensuring that we have students completing CTE programs and the courses they need for graduation.
Yep. And Lori, will you just say hello and tell us just a bit about yourself?
Sure. This is year 35 for me in education, all with the same school system. Nice. I have been an English teacher for 10 years and then a high school counselor for 20 years. And now my 5 years experience at the district level overseeing the counseling programming and our secondary testing programming. But that does involve, as Sarah mentioned, our CTE programming. And those of you in Indiana will know that we honestly jumped on the concept of Pathways and found the four-year planning got much more important and quite more complicated with the introduction of the Indiana Graduation Pathways option for CTE completion to be a pathway to graduation. And even with the new iteration of our new diplomas in Indiana, that remains part of the complication of what we do with our work, but it's also a positive point for students. It just makes the counselor's job a little more complicated. And now with those of us in Indiana with the 6 seals coming at us, also find that planning is even more critical than ever. So that's where we are.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for being here. Why don't we, since Lori, you were just talking, why don't you talk just a little bit about the process of planning? Like, there could be some people on the call who are just kind of dipping their foot in the water of planning. And what is your process? Who do you meet with first? What do you do? What do you discuss then? What do you offer? Like all of those types of things in 5 minutes.
Okay.
I know that's going to be hard.
Actually, it's not all that complicated.
Okay.
We actually, it's really an Indiana mandate, supposed mandate. I don't really think there are any police of it, but that we create the plan in 8th grade. And that is also part of the new requirements for our new Indiana diploma. So we actually have been creating the initial iteration of the 4-year plan starts with our 8th grade counselors in coordination with our 9th grade counselors. So we basically do a unit, and for all of us, we know that going in and do, this is a form of classroom guidance, finding the space in the class that you're going to choose to do that in is probably pretty specific, to whatever school. We have 3 high schools, so I have 5 middle schools that we have to deal with. So when I'm talking about 8th grade, one middle school, they go in through their FACS programming, but the other middle school doesn't even have a FACS program. So they are actually going in and doing it through 8th grade English classes. The other 2 depends on the spring rotation of where the students are, because they have a rolling elective model. So our 2 larger middle schools, the 8th grade counselor goes in and it's about a week guidance lesson where it's all things high school. But part of that guidance lesson includes discussion of, we're an academy model. So that lends itself really well to CTE programming as well. But talking about how high school works and how they will have 7 classes, and they tie that into our course catalog review. So once upon a time, we actually had the physical course catalogs, you know, that were 40 pages long, and we sent them to the printer and we handed those out. And really, it was only 2 years ago that we shifted to make that catalog only available online. So now the 8th grade counselor, in conjunction with the 9th grade counselor, kind of do that lesson on what electives are available. Because to do a 4-year plan, it's more than just talking about what you're going to choose your 9th grade year. And that can be really complicated for your 8th grade counselor. So that's how we learned it had to be a collaboration. But I will tell you, this year with the new diploma, my 8th grade counselors panicked, and they feel very inadequate to present these options. And I actually agree. So we are definitely interested in all the supports we can get to help them, because it's not their routine job to try to counsel someone all the way through those requirements. And now that there are 6 seals, and some of those don't lend themselves beautifully to giving the best direction to families, people are really nervous about that. So I will tell you that we are really hoping for electronic supports to help lift some of that weight from our 8th grade counselors.
And Lori, right now, well, I would say right now before Pathways, do you use spreadsheets? Do you use paper? Because sometimes paper is the best option versus technology. So what do you use right now to kind of keep that organized and in place so that everyone's on the same page, let's say?
Good question. And we actually have done it both ways. Well, I will say we attempted to use the program in Indiana Career Explorer for 1 year and vetoed that. That was probably 6 or 7 years ago when they first created it. We tried it and decided we didn't like it. So we have been doing the 4-year plan on cardstock, and it is it's a 1-pager. We require kids to use pencil for good reason. And that cardstock, then when they come to high school, the other side of it becomes their transcript check, where we can write notes, like if they failed a class, that sort of thing. So it's still kind of old school, but it is a 1-to-1 conversation that bounces with them from year to year. So the 8th grade counselor starts it, and I might know that, oh, you're interested in going into the medical field. You told me that in 8th grade, but now I'm looking at your chemistry grade in 10th grade, and we didn't do very well. And you're telling me you don't want to take biology next year, AP, so don't want to do the biomed program. So let's erase this. What are you interested in now? But it also sometimes helps me know that in 8th grade, they saw a presentation from our career center and thought they might want to try welding. And I may never have looked at whatever they picked in grade
Yeah.
9 because there's no option for welding. But it
Yeah.
said under 11th grade, they were interested in welding. And that gives me a clue. Oh, so those are one-to-one conversations. So that card stock follows each one-to-one scheduling meeting in the January, February, March yearly sessions.
Sure. All right, so before we get out the time gets away from us, Sarah, I want to hear a little bit about what your plan is and kind of what your process is. A little bit about what answering the same questions that Lori answered, but how you do it, because obviously Texas is unique from Indiana, and how you handle it at Pleasanton.
Well, it's interesting listening to Lori. It sounds like we do things very similar in Texas to what they do in Indiana. I don't know what the 6 seal thing is that she's talking about, but we had something called House Bill 5 that was rolled out about 11 or 12 years ago. It too the law does say a student must create their high school 4-year plan in the 8th grade before going to high school. They choose what's called an endorsement, which is a broad area. There's 5 endorsements in Texas, and then in Texas underneath endorsements, we have career and technical education, CTE programs of study. And so our counselor sits that we start with 8th graders. We our high school counselors go down. We're a very small school. We're a high school of about 950 students. So our high school counselors spend a week down at junior high. And I feel Lori's pain too, trying to carve out that time within 8th grade, because in Texas, 8th grade has 4 state assessments. They have an English, a math, a science, and a social studies. So none of our core content teachers are real interested in giving up class time for high school planning before the big STAR test. So we have to tiptoe, but we really have the last couple of years have worked very well with our junior high to get in there and meet with those 8th graders. They meet one-on-one with the 8th graders to create their plan. Like Lori, we did them on paper. We didn't let the kids write on them. We did them with ink and lots of those white liquid paper eraser things. And so this is our 2nd year that we've used Pathways to create our plans, and I love that we're not having to use paper anymore. The cool thing about Pathways is it has places where you can put that kiddo said when he was in 8th grade he wanted to be a professional basketball player, and then once it shows in there anytime you make a change, and it says, okay, change career goal on this day. Okay, well, he figured out he wasn't going to be a professional basketball player when he didn't make the team his freshman and sophomore year, so he needs a backup plan, and then you can change that career goal. But it works really well for us because we can put our classes in there that align with our programs of study and our graduation requirements, and it makes it very user friendly for the counselor to sit down with the student and have that conversation.
Thank you for that.
What other questions do you have for me?
I just love hearing the kind of the collaborative strategies that are in place, not only from the counselor side to the student, but the idea that there's early identification. I hear you guys talking about personalized planning, proactive check-ins. All of that is so crucial to, a 4-year plan. You're talking about a longevity of the student's career. So, the tracking gets bigger and bigger as they get to their senior year. And so it's just really kind of showcases and highlights all of the things that are happening from year to year. So thank you.
And like Lori was saying that someone said they wanted to be a doctor or something when they were in 8th grade. And then when they met with their counselor in 10th grade, well, how are you going to be a doctor when you're failing chemistry with a 65? And so it makes all the student data is on one page, and you can see their SAT scores, you can see their local college readiness scores and their grades in their classes. I'm like, hey, you're sitting here telling me you want to be a civil engineer, but you're blowing off physics and you're blowing off algebra 2. How are you going to be a civil engineer if you're blowing these classes off? So it puts all the information right there in one spot where it makes it very easy for a counselor to have a conversation with the student.
And not only for the counselor, but for the student to have that visual, right? Like
Yes.
how important
Yes.
is that for the student
Yes.
to see that visual? I mean, I love the ability to leverage that technology as a communication and teach piece.
And next year, we're hoping, we did not have a student advisory enrichment period this year, like we had in the past. I don't know if all high schools have those or don't have those, but we're going back to having one next year. And I'm hopeful that we will give pathways access to those advisory teachers, those enrichment teachers. So that way there's going to be another person helping. You know, like our counselors have about 350 kids on a caseload, 300 to 350 kids, and that they're trying to take care of, and having another person that's kind of like a helper to check in with them. So each 6 weeks, hey, you know, look at your grades. You know, you want to get into UT. They only take top 6%. Remember, why are you blowing these classes off? Don't you told your counselor on this date that UT was your top choice? Those kind of conversations can happen because the data is right there.
And it's very easy to add additional users and mentors,
Yes.
no
Yes.
additional cost or anything like
Right.
that. But even if they're like view only, you want those advisors
Right.
to be view only. You can manage their case so they can stay within FERPA law and only see the students that they're allowed to see.
Right.
You can manage that as well. So that would be very easy to do that if you want to provide that access to this.
I've looked into it's getting everybody to agree that we're going to do that. But I think next year we will. My counselors are all perfectionists, and if they make a mistake somewhere, they don't want anybody to know they made a mistake. And I'm like, hey, we're all human. We all make mistakes once in a while. So, and it helps to have lots of eyes being able to check, checks and balances with each other. So
there have also been, regarding that, there have been some other schools that have had their special ed teachers view only as well, that will help with that as well. Lori, what were you saying?
Well, I would say that one of the advantages of going electronic, especially with the student portal access, is right now, if we want students to have a copy of their 4-year plan, we have to physically run it through the copy machine and then sort it. And so we're pretty excited about not having to do that. Same thing with the transcript check, because with Education Advanced, I can now just go to the graduation planner in their junior year and I can see their grades for everything that they took the freshman and sophomore year. So it's really all, kind of all one document, which is extremely helpful and helps all of us. Sarah mentioned, counselors make mistakes. The electronic versions of this help us all to not make mistakes and help the student and the family to be more accountable in this process so that we're not the only ones holding the data.
I would absolutely agree with that, Lori, because while I'm sure bringing parents into the visual connection of the student data brings massive amounts of anxiety for counselors, it also brings accountability. And a parent can come in and say, hey, I thought my kid took this class. Well, okay, let's take a look. And it just, like you said, it provides more eyes and more success for that kid, because the kid's going to be on a better track if their parents are more informed, if the counselor's more informed, if the kid's more informed. It's all going to come together. And for those of you who are on the call who don't know about My Pathways, we haven't really announced it yet. My Pathways is a My Pathways family portal where students and parents are going to be able to log into My Pathways and be able to see most of the information that you as a counselor can see within the Pathways product. They'll be able to see the 4-year planner and their diploma progress details page, their PGP, the graduation worksheet that has all of the information about CTE on it. There are specific notes that a counselor can add to each of those pages for whatever reason. So it not eliminates, but it decreases the need for a counselor to have to push out and print out those documents for PGP or for 4-year planner that you would need to print out and hand to students. We're not getting rid of that, by the way, because that's still important to be sitting in front of a student and be able to hand them something. We know that's important, so we're not getting rid of that. But it makes that communication better between the school and the parent, so that the parent is more informed, and so is the student, of what courses the student is taking, which ones they've already taken and may need to, I don't know, retake or whatever, but also not only that, what pathway they're on and what they plan to take in the future that will get them toward those goals that they have.
And Robbie, as I was listening to Sarah and Lori, the idea that part of that auditing process, having more eyes on the data, sometimes that can be a scary feeling, right?
Yes.
For people. But I
Yep.
think what's really good about leveraging the technology and the tools that you have is that auditing doesn't have to be a scary process. Auditing is not an I got you. It's about promoting compliance awareness, right? And I love that, you know, that focus in the product is, hey, this is all of us having eyes on a data set. It's all of us working in collaboration together as a team to support those conversations that we're having with students.
And I know just like one thing that I know it'll help this year. We still have to hand input the course selections from the 4-year planner into our student information system. And I know I've been after y'all to, we're trying to figure out what we need to make it where we can upload it next year. So we still have to hand enter them. And we have an amazing registrar that does a great job at getting them all hand entered. She can enter a whole, like when we got all the 8th graders done, she had everything entered in 2 days. But once in a while you hit a wrong key and you make a
Yep.
typo. And
Yep.
sometimes even when you check, you miss something. So we have a 9th grader that sat in English 2, and we didn't realize it until nobody said anything. And I feel like, well, if we had more people with access, somebody could have said earlier in the year, hey, this kid's a 9th grader. Why is he sitting in English 2? And we could have fixed it. Luckily, the kid's very smart and he's done okay. But, you know, and that's just, and as a counselor, you know, every year I'm auditing transcripts. And I found a kid, I remember exactly who he was. His senior year, in about halfway through the first semester, he hadn't taken his fine art. And I'm like, okay, thank God I found this now and not the last week of school. We get you in, we got him in an art class and it worked out just fine. But, you know, those things happen. The more, like you said, promoting compliance and collaboratively working together. And that's, y'all have all the pieces built in there to do that. Everybody's just got to be willing to use them. And I'm all about that.
And by the way, Sarah, I think you probably know this, but for everyone else's benefit, with the 4-year planner and pathways, our intent is right now, and actually I got a document from Lori just today about this, is to work with school districts that are right now helping us work through the bugs and what the 4-year planner looks like,
Mm-hmm.
so that the ultimate goal is they can use the 4-year planner within Pathways as a tool for course selection that you can then just download the data from Pathways, import it into, and whatever format it happens to be in, it will be a somewhat generic format so that many student information systems can use it. But then that particular data would then be able to be imported into your student information system so that you then don't have to manually enter those in for course. If we're not going to become a scheduler, we will,
Right.
I can't guarantee that, but I can almost guarantee we're not going to become a scheduling tool because your SIS does that. But we are going to try to help you get further along in that process so you then can use technology here and not have to go to manual entry and then still use technology for scheduling. So that is in the works, and we are actively right now getting feedback from our schools who are using the 4-year planner right now to make that happen.
Another comment that I wanted to add to why I'm excited about this going to the 4-year planner with this new diploma iteration is that I can set up the base diploma 4-year planner, and I then can set up the enrollment honor seal 4-year planner. So if Johnny decides to go from a base to an enrollment honors and mom wants to know how that's going to look different, all I have to do is change his target. And now I have a planner that maps out basics of what he will need. So we haven't built that out yet, of course, but the idea of it is going to be really helpful to counselors and families.
If any of you on the call are in Indiana or Texas, you have the ability to do this in Texas as well. But if any of you on the call want to think through how that works as far as how you set up the planner to match the diploma type and the seal you might be, I mean, it ends up that you're going to have a bunch of diplomas listed. However, it'll make it very easy once it's set up to jump between one and the other. And look, you have these many requirements done in this one, and you can put it right next to the next one that you want to take a look at. And you have these requirements met for this one. And it'll make it easier for you once you've put the work in the very beginning. And we are more than happy. Mia Finch is you're probably aware of that name. Mia Finch is the other customer success manager in Indiana. We are more than happy to sit with you and show you how that happens and how that works, how to set up your 4-year planner so that all of your courses are there's a template basically. And then you can veer from that template and modify that template per the discussion you might have with your students, so that and there's really an easy click and drag way to do it. And it's you may not realize that yet, but that's the newest version of the planner that's coming out. But it's very easy to modify the planner so that the student is on the track that they need to be on, but it gives you that skeleton so you don't have to start from scratch with every single student. You can start with just the diploma they're targeting.
And James and I are happy to do that with our Texas districts as well. So I know many people on the call are familiar with, Robbie's work in Indiana, Mia, and then James and I in Texas.
Yep.
And I think really Lori and Sarah can both kind of attest to our not only availability, but, advocating for our districts and campus users who are in the product and have questions. We really do work hard to work with you guys on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Y'all do, and I bug y'all a lot, and I'll keep bugging you. But that y'all are really very very helpful, and always, if there's an issue that can be fixed right away, y'all fix it. Y'all always fix it right away. So.
Well, Pathways looks. I was one of the original developers of Pathways, and it looks like it does because of outspoken people like yourselves. Like, don't think you're bugging us. You're helping us make the product better. I mean, we're educators. I taught in Indiana for 26 years. I know what it's like to be in your seat. While I wasn't a counselor, I was in admin and I was an educator and teacher. But I know what it means to have to need something and need it desperately, and know that something could help me if it would just do this. Keep talking to us, because it's not a hindrance at all. It's a help to the product. Making business-wise decisions, it helps us, with the business. But we also know that we're helping out educators and getting your problems solved by providing solutions like this. So we appreciate that feedback.
Absolutely. I mean, every day it's the idea that we want to be working smarter, not harder. And so all of that feedback really does contribute to making, the tool better, and even just the conversations that we're having today, all of the strategies that are employed on a daily basis. I mean, this is what we want to continue to provide, that support for educators.
Does anybody have any questions? I want to open up the floor. We're in a webinar format, and it kind of works a little wonky as far as it's not like a regular just Zoom meeting where you can just open up the chat and start chatting. But there should be a Q&A area at the bottom of your screen where you can put questions that we can all see and take a look at. If you want to put some questions in there, that will be helpful. We have just a couple of minutes left, but I want to make sure that if there are any questions that you guys have, you can get those answered by our team here.
I will just go ahead and give a summary of how we plan to shift from our current plan of my new diploma for Indiana 4-year graduation plan document and samples is 8 pages long. And those actually have sample schedules, etc. But those are what I am using to program in my diploma tracks in Education Advanced. So I will, in the Pathways program, my 8th grade counselors will now be able to just pull these up as a visual on the smart screen in the front of the room. And students, hopefully with their access, will be able to enter those in from the sample plan in 8th grade. And then that part is done in a very quick mode. Of course, every time I talk, they call.
And Randy did raise her hand. Randy's hand is raised.
Yeah, Brandy, go ahead and unmute.
Yes, I did put a question in the Q&A, but the chat is disabled, so we can't put anything in there. I was just wondering, at what point do 8th graders get uploaded into the Pathways dashboard? So that we could start working with 8th graders to do their plans there.
That's a great question, Brandy. So that is dependent on several things. And some of it has to do with cost. If you are at the minimum price range for the number of students you have, it's likely that we can just add them for no cost, and we can just add them. We just have to ask, and we can work through doing that. If you are at a price range that is like $4 per student, then 8th graders or any other students, less 7th and 8th graders, would be $2 per student to be able to add them. Otherwise, when your students are 8th graders, they won't become 9th graders and they won't get in the system until they're in 9th grade, which means your rollover over the summer. So it depends on your school district and how big your school district is. If you are at a minimum, and many Indiana schools are, Brandy, I don't know if you are in Indiana or Texas.
Texas.
Okay. So depending on your school district, wherever you are, if you're at that minimum cost, if bringing your 8th graders in would still keep you underneath that minimum cost, then it's no big deal. We can just add them for you. Otherwise, they are $2 per student.
Okay, so we would need to ask James.
Yes, check with James. He can get that. Absolutely get that done for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I really do appreciate everyone who has joined us today. Lori, Sarah, thank you so much for your time, your insights, really kind of digging into providing a great conversation for us here that highlights challenges, but also provides us strategies and really just encourages continuous improvement, right? For student success, for better processes, leveraging technology. And I just really appreciate that open conversation that you had here. After we close today, everyone in attendance will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording. So, just on your spare time, if you want to revisit all of the good things that we talked about today, you'll have access to that. Or even if you want to share it out with, colleagues or others who you think might benefit from it. So thank you so much for taking time and sharing those insights with us today. Robbie, anything else you want to add?
Nope. Sarah and Lori, thanks for your expertise and your willingness to
you.
share. Really appreciate it.
Good luck,
Thanks so
everyone.
much, ladies.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. If you want to learn more about college and career readiness, graduation tracking, teacher growth, assessment coordination, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. Until next time.